World Downpour is finally here. If you didn't already know, Downpour is a DLC that introduces a bunch of new content to Rainworld. 5 new playable characters, a bunch of new areas, new music, new lore, you name it. The DLC has more content than the base game does. It's crazy. And I was fortunate enough to get early access to this DLC to be able to make a couple of videos on it, which I'm incredibly thankful for. I've had access to it for just about 2 weeks now, and you could say I'm quite a big fan. This video will have some spoilers in it, but it'll only be minor spoilers. Just stuff that's already been shown off in the handful of trailers that they've already released for the DLC. Maybe the odd shot of a new area or something, but nothing too major. But if you've been even avoiding those sorts of spoilers, then I guess you can skip this video. But if you watch no further than this, just trust me when I say it was worth all the hype. In about a week or two, I'm gonna release a much longer video that goes all in on the spoilers, just spoiling literally everything. Spoilers left and right so that I can give my unfiltered opinion on everything I think about this game. Because I've been just as excited waiting for it as everybody else has, so I want to talk about it. But for now, here's the spoiler-free version. Downpour is fantastic. There's so much content, so much more than I actually expected there to be. Because the biggest concern that I had when first hearing about this DLC was that these new slug cats with their crazy wacky abilities would just be overpowered. That the ability to practically fly as the Saint or the Artificer would really make it feel redundant playing a character like the Survivor, who's got nothing unique going for him. But it turns out that this just isn't the case at all. Because each slug cat has a unique campaign with a unique story. Every slug cat starts in a different part of the world with a different goal in mind. Sometimes what that goal actually is very obvious, but for other characters, not so much. So despite the abilities of all the other characters being completely crazy, that doesn't actually nullify the need or desire to play Hunter or Survivor or Monk, because those 3 characters have different stories with different goals. So you wanting to play Rivulet, for example, won't just be for the crazy fast move speeds that they have, but it will also be for the unique campaign that they have. Although the term campaign really makes it sound like a bunch of Call of Duty missions or something, when it really isn't anything like that at all.
Remember, no Russian.
Was that joke too dark? It might have been too dark. Anyway, it's hard to pick favourites, but if I really had to, my favourite would be the Artificer. The Artificer is like the perfect character for the way that I like to play Rainworld. The Artificer's power is that they can make bombs. Explosive spears and bombs. Just lots of bombs. And the downside to that is that you have a really low reputation with scavengers, and that reputation cannot be increased under any circumstances, which means that you're forced to fight them all the time. And I don't know about you, but I love fighting scavengers. It's so exciting. It forces you to be creative and resourceful. And they fight in much the same way that you do, by throwing spears and throwing bombs. So being forced to constantly fight your way through scavenger tolls is amazingly fun to me. Another bonus is the mobility. Pressing your jump and grab buttons at the same time while you're in the air will make you do a little rocket jump. So the Artificer is incredibly mobile, and this will come in handy when fighting a bunch of terrifying hordes of scavengers that really want to murder you. So there's cool combat, there's schmovement, and there's rocket jumping. I love all of those things. Those things are all my favourite. Then we have the Gourmand. He's absolutely massive. He's really fat, and he can't run very fast or jump very much because he's a fat bastard. The Gourmand's ability is that they can craft things. Everyone else is out here playing Rainworld, but the Gourmand's playing Minecraft. If you have 2 different items in each hand, you can mush them together to make a new item. And this comes in handy a lot. You can really bail yourself out of a lot of situations that you have no business surviving, because this clever little fatso can craft whatever he wants in the right circumstances. The hardest part is remembering the crafting recipes for everything, because not all of them are intuitive. Some of the things you end up crafting with the 2 objects you started with just don't make any sense. But that's fine, because with enough trial and error, you can remember a bunch of really useful ones and keep them in the back of your mind when you need them. The Gourmand's other secret little power is that they can regurgitate random items. Holding the throw button while your stomach is empty will spend 1 food pip in exchange for coughing up a random item. Although the word random really should be in like 5 quotation marks at least, because it coughs up batnip at least like 80% of the time. But it can still be useful for some crafting recipes, so it's not completely useless. The most notable use for this ability is with popcorn plants. It costs 1 food to spit up a random item, but popcorn plants give you infinite food. So you can spend an entire cycle next to a popcorn plant just infinitely generating items and crafting things with them. Gourmand has got the infinite money cheat code on. The scavenger stock market is completely collapsing as we speak. This is actually insanely powerful. You can get so many useful items and just stuff them all into your shelter for keeping later. But the Gourmand's abilities don't come without their downside, because the Gourmand is quite fat, so if you jump around too much or throw too many objects, he gets all tuckered out, bless him. So the Gourmand, when tired, becomes really slow and can't move very much, and you have to come to a complete stop to regain your energy before you can move like normal again. And the Gourmand gets tired out a lot. Quite a lazy bastard, this one. After throwing just 1 spear, you instantly become tired out, which can make combat a little bit tough sometimes. Although I did think the Gourmand was a lot of fun. Much more fun than I actually expected it to be from watching the trailers. It's definitely the least crazy character out of all of them, but still a ton of fun to play. And then we get to the Rivulet. This guy is so fast, just unbelievably fast, to the point where I was actually having a hard time controlling my character at first. You run faster, jump higher, and swim further than any other character can. You can even breathe underwater. Your downside to this is that the cycles are significantly shorter. The rain comes far more frequently than usual, but your ability to zoom exceptionally quickly easily makes up for this. Although those shorter cycles aren't redundant, because it does really put the time pressure on for certain situations, where there's just like a gazillion enemies between you and where you really need to go, and the time's ticking and you have to figure out a way past. Then there's the Spearmaster. You know, the Master of Spears. Their power is spears. The clue's in the name. You can generate spears infinitely by holding the grab button while stood still. And you can hold 2 spears at once. Your downside, if you can even call it that, is that you can't eat things normally. You have to throw these white spears at other living creatures to drain food from them. Spearmaster runs around the place drinking all of his enemies. Just drinking stuff. He spawns a bunch of bendy straws and drinks you. And you don't even have a stomach that you can store items in either. So carrying poles for scavenger tolls is quite tedious to do. So instead, you can just, you know, not pay for scavenger tolls. But not paying for scavenger tolls and solving every problem with murder will make your reputation with scavengers sketchy to say the least. Spearmaster is super fun, because Rainworld's combat is super fun, and I can hold a spear in each hand. So it's actually just as simple as that. But unlike Artificer's crazy bomb throwing shenanigans, having 2 spears doesn't necessarily make every combat scenario easy, because throwing a spear at a lizard head on doesn't really do anything. It just bounces off. And when you throw a rock at a lizard, it'll actually flip over, allowing you to spear it and actually deal damage. But spears don't cause lizards to flip over when you throw them at them. So you still have to think about your combat encounters carefully, even if you are armed to the teeth. Or I guess you don't have teeth, because you don't eat things. You armed to the arms. Spears. God, I don't know what I'm even talking about. What am I even And spears are useful for traversal as well. You can infinitely spawn spears and jam them into walls to climb around, so it's relatively useful for mobility too. And finally you have the Saint. If Spearmaster is all about combat, then the Saint is the polar opposite of that. The Saint can't even throw a spear. He can throw rocks, but not very hard. They're completely defenseless, but to make up for that, the Saint has like a really long tongue or something. Look, it makes sense, trust me. The Saint can grapple onto surfaces with its tongue and swing around the map incredibly quickly. And this is your only tool to escape danger. Throwing rocks might help against lizards, but centipedes don't even slightly care. You use your tongue to climb to hard to reach places, and to swing from ceiling to ceiling quickly, and to hang around above enemies where they can't hurt you. This sounds great in theory, and the mobility is very powerful, don't get me wrong. But in practice, the Saint is so unbelievably difficult. This character had me losing my mind. I was molding so hard I no longer have any hair on my head. You're completely doomed in tight spaces because your mobility just doesn't save you. And if you do make a mistake, you're unable to defend yourself and you'll often die instantly. The Saint is so brutally difficult, far more difficult than any other character was in my own experience. But that certainly made it more rewarding when I actually got to the end. Oh, this? Oh yeah, sorry, I can't show you that. It's a pretty big spoiler, actually, for what happens to the Saint at the end. You don't want to see that, trust me. Just, the DLC only just released today. If you want to hear me talk about that, you'll have to wait until my next Downpour video, where I give my much more detailed, much more spoiler-filled take on World Downpour. I'll spill all the beans. There'll be so many beans. But until then, the best I can give you is this blurry screen. The last thing worth noting is that a lot of the content from World Downpour originates in one form or another from mods, and the devs got in touch with certain modding community members to collaborate and expand on the ideas they'd already made to get what Downpour turned into, which is a really clever idea. It makes the devs happy, it makes the modders happy, and it makes the community happy. It's a pretty genius strategy, a strategy that some AAA companies I could mention should really take on board, to be honest. I also want to give a massive thanks to Video Cult and Acapara Games for giving me such an amazing opportunity to try out the game early for these videos. I've been a massive World fan ever since it came out in 2017, so I was insanely excited to get this opportunity. But if you're on the fence about getting the DLC and you're looking for someone to push you in one direction or the other, then the simple answer is yes. If you're already a fan of World, then you're gonna love it. So happy Downpour Day, everyone. I hope you all enjoy this content as much as I did. Well, mostly did. Let me win. You cannot be fucking serious. Thanks for watching.